next 10 seconds.
Good morning, Geauga County, Lake County, all places, northeastern Ohio. You are listening to the voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool and Jonathan Broadbent, where we're coming to you Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., Monday through Friday.
System may have a little case of the Mondays. We're good. Good to go, everybody. I have a question to start off the show. Why is it 39 degrees? What is happening here? It is May 11th and it's 39 degrees. It seems like it should be warmer.
That's called global warming, Jonathan. Global warming.
Oh, yeah. Well, wait a minute. It's 2026. Are we still calling it global warming? No, it was global bubbling and then global catastrophe. And I don't think we're up to date on the latest catchphrase.
Well, you know, if when Stu shows up, he could tell us. If I'm not sure if Stu is out there listening, you know, all the libs have an answer on that. We might want to ask Stu and see if he knows if it's global warming, climate change, what the current um, ridiculous explanation for our weather, which has always changed.
The lead up to a big event that's taking place in June, downtown Cleveland. And that is a great expression that I've heard. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's a great expression, and it's I'll have to find the program. It's coming up. I think it's going to be at the Rocket Arena, and there are a series of speakers that are coming, many of whom seem interesting and compelling to me. But that expression in particular, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that you can apply that to so many different things in life, from the various different political activities that are available, the different boards and opportunities to go in and speak in environments like the commissioner's office. It can, who we call influencers, and I sort of chafe at that ridiculous term, but I guess it applies. All people go through those. If you're going to stick your neck out for something and try for something, if that's making change at the local level, or a new business venture, or stepping into politics, and I'll apply it myself. Several years ago, some people were talking about empty seats within the Republican Party. I didn't know what that meant for a while. I kept hearing that about half of the Republican Party has vacant seats. About 50% of the Republican Party has nobody there to represent we the people. I didn't understand that for a while. Eventually, the light bulb went on, and I had heard the message enough times that I stepped into that role. It's a volunteer significance of that role. And of course, there were some times where it gets uncomfortable. I stood up several times to speak, which I don't particularly care for. I don't like the media. I don't like the microphone. I don't like the spotlight, but I'm willing to do it. But that goes back to that expression, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. We are at a place in our society, in our culture, in America right now, where we want to see positive change. Everyone seems to be looking to somebody else to do it. We're waiting for maybe Trump fixes things. Maybe the person that you just got elected to local office, or Columbus or something, maybe they'll be the one that comes along, and they're going to be the knight in shining armor and fix things. My encouragement, using that expression, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, is don't wait. Stop waiting. You're that person. If you're listening to this, you're that person. Even if it's just communism, it's not going to go anywhere. And waiting for somebody to come along to fix it isn't going to help. So I'm encouraging as many people as possible to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Step into some sort of role. I've seen it here recently. We've had some great campaigns. I can't speak for any of the following, and I mean no offense to any of them, but I get the sense from the time that we spent with Steve Olowich, with Abby King, with Joe DeBoth. Those are not people who have stepped in because they want media attention and they want spotlight, and they are comfortable, immediately comfortable in that role. Those are people who are caring American citizens who, in my book, expressed the body language, the position that they are comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that oftentimes is the best person for those kinds of roles. Not the Skip, let's test your microphone. Are you with us?
I should be with you.
Okay, great.
So
I
for
just thought
some
I'd lead with
reason,
something to give you a couple of minutes there.
yes, for some reason our the internet's a bit unstable this morning. I'm not sure why that is exactly, but it normally settles down. We'll see. We did get a message from somebody on Facebook about Brian Ames posting something on Willoughby Eastlake School Superintendent. I don't know what that's about. Maybe Cheryl, you can call in. Somebody said we might want to talk about that or touch on that. Something about him wanting the Lake County Commissioners to not extend the reduction of property taxes. So I'm not surprised that a school superintendent might want um, more money
Well,
coming
they want
coming
as
in.
much as possible.
But
There's never such thing as enough.
for schools, some schools who don't understand managing their finances well, there's only one side to the ledger, and we all know that there's actually two sides. There's an income side and there's an expense side. If you don't have the income coming in, you have to reduce your expenses, and so not Brian. I said Brian Ames. I'm sorry, Tiff. I meant Brian Massey. So it's two Brian's out
Oh,
there.
yeah.
It's confusing. But regardless,
That changes things.
schools oftentimes, when I was a county commissioner, we would sit on the board of revision, which is a hearing when citizens would come in and want to reduce the property taxes on their homes. And so they might have done something, or our auditor or our appraiser might have gone out and appraised their homes and now increased the value of their home, unrealized gain, and then they wanted to reduce that. Or in one case, we had a lady come in who built a luxurious swimming pool, like I don't know, a $50,000 swimming pool on her $1 million home, and we bumped the price of her, the value of her home up accordingly, and she was complaining about um, the increase as a millionaire. So, but there were people who did deserve, and 90% of the time we did reduce the property taxes in Geauga County. But schools were always at the table because whenever we reduced property taxes, that impacted their income, and so they wanted to weigh in and argue against whatever change we were looking at. So there's all kinds of back stuff that's going on. Citizens don't know anything about. The Board of Revision is one of those. Getting rid of property tax, by the way, eliminates all of that nonsense. You don't have to go through a board of revision. Things aren't based on the value of your home, an unrealized gain. By the way, that's illegal at a federal level. You can't tax unrealized gain, meaning money you haven't actually made yet. In the stock market, oftentimes you make money on paper, but you haven't put it in your pocket because the stock market could go down tomorrow and you'd lose everything. And we're coming up on the break. Jonathan, I see that, so I'll let you take us into the break. But
Yeah, no, absolutely. One other thing I'm going to interject as we head into our first break, and that is, unfortunately for us, when it comes to schools, there are actually four balance sheets, four sides to the balance sheet. So Skip Scottman talking about profit and loss, our money in and money out. Unfortunately, there's a second hidden set, and that has to do with educational service centers, or ESC for short. It's another way of hiding taxpayer dollars flowing through school districts. We're going to pick up with more of our Monday morning discussion when we come back on the other side of the break.
Mics are off. Mics are off. Cheryl will be on the phone. Cheryl from Wickliffe is on the phone.
good.
Okay, we'll come back to Cheryl.
To the the folks that are on social media, and we'll talk about this when we come back after the break at some point. We're going through a transition right now in the radio program. So one of our angel investors has backed off. He was spending, a lot of money. It cost us about $650 a week to keep this program on the air, and so we need to get that funded. We have a couple of advertisers ready, FT being one. I've got another one I just talked to yesterday, but it doesn't cover the cost of the radio program. So we have some decisions to make. And so,
completely defray the cost.
yeah,
Which
so
creates a great opportunity for our listening audience.
For people who want to help us, I put a donate button on the website, so you can donate to this program to help keep us on the air. And if we can get enough money in a week, then we keep the program in the other air. The other part to that is the newspaper, because we've lost significant revenue. It's all produced through advertising, and we've lost our campaign advertising. The campaign is over with. And so we need to make up for that with business advertising. And so we're out actively seeking that. And it's a pretty easy sell given the reach that it gives businesses 43,000 homes, every home in Geauga County. But we still need help in that. And we also would like to bring some people on board that would be interested in writing and or helping to produce the paper. It takes time and to set up the paper itself, to put the stories in, to organize them, to collect stories from across Geauga County. And so anybody that wants to help either financially, help with the advertising, or help us to get the articles and so forth, we need more arms and legs. So
making this thing a beauty. This is a
30 seconds, 30 seconds.
Good looking paper.
By the way, I was over in Madison at a winery over the weekend. My brother turned 70, and we were celebrating that. And there were 4 people sitting at a table talking about the Voice of Geauga newspaper and how much they liked it. And so I found that fascinating that here I am in Madison, Lake or Ashtabula County, and people are talking about the Voice of Geauga newspaper. And if I go around, I think I've talked about this before, but I went into Huntington
10
Bank.
10 seconds, 10 seconds.
Welcome back to Voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool and myself, Jonathan Broadbent. I learned over the break that we have a caller. Cheryl has called in to join us. Cheryl, you're on Voice of Geauga. What's up this Monday morning?
The beautiful sunshine, that's what's up. Last night, sometime yesterday, Brian Massey put out a story on lobbyistforcitizens.com regarding the school, Willoughby Eastlake School District Superintendent, and it's this basically Brian says it seems like lies, deceptions, and betrayals abound at the administration building of the Willoughby Eastlake School District. We're given the following letter. Superintendent Patrick Ward sent to all Willoughby Eastlake families asking them to challenge the Lake County Commissioners about their decision to give Lake County families a property tax break. What Superintendent Ward fails to acknowledge is that his school district got over $8 million a year in the last property tax decennial revaluation without a vote of the taxpayers. And it goes on, and so he's sending this out, and he wants this to stop. So basically, people can read the article on lobbyistforcitizens.com. Brian's encouraging people to contact the Willoughby Eastlake School District superintendent. I find this a bit overreach, and it's a wicked web that these schools continue to do. Now, Willoughby Eastlake did not put their income tax levy on the ballot as they had proposed to at one of their board meetings that I was in attendance in, along with Commissioner John Plechnik. They were going to do a 1.5 income tax, earned income tax levy, but did not put anything on the ballot. So I assume they will do something in November. But this school superintendent salary, just the salary, $200,000 a year. That doesn't include all his benefits. And on that article that Brian wrote yesterday is a link where people can read the proposal of everything that this school superintendent will receive during his time as school superintendent. It's alarming, it's eye-opening, and people really need to wake up with what's going on.
Yeah,
Who
wake
is
up to
he?
the finances. Cheryl, I'm going to interject for our audience and for anybody who's
Okay.
listening and focused on Willoughby East Lake and schools like it. A few things. One is that a few years ago, under the banner of saving money, Willoughby East Lake has been threatening to pull back on certain services. They talk about threatening to pull back on or eliminate busing and all kinds of things that are very, very visible to the public and seem painful. That is fear mongering at its best. And they also, a few years ago, I'm not sure where they ended up with it, but they were toying around with the idea of removing advanced placement or AP classes in Willoughby East Lake, which is really unfortunate. For the kids who are excelling academically, to take away from them is a horrible idea. But what they've consistently done in my book, in Willoughby East Lake and many school districts like it, is take in huge windfall amounts of money, but constantly and routinely pretend like they don't have enough. And I'm looking now at the state financial budget or the state report card for Willoughby East Lake. And Cheryl, I don't know if you know this, but their most recent report shows that they're spending $18,583 per student. It's important to remember, as I mentioned earlier, to Skip, there's another balance sheet.
Is myself and a few other people in Wycliffe fought hard against the income tax, earned income tax levy in Wycliffe, and it passed by 132 votes. Now you can look to see how many registered voters are in just the city of Wycliffe, and the city of Wycliffe is made up of approximately close to 13,000 residents here, but the voter registration is alarming in of itself. So we're stuck with the earned income tax levy, and now people are questioning, excuse me, how does this work? How does this work? And these are people who voted for this. So the Wycliffe City School Levy Committee did not really break it down and just maybe have one meeting on how that all operates. People are thinking, do I have to file a RETA tax? No, it goes on your state return. So now people feel, from comments I've read, that maybe they've been deceived. So when they get hit with that next year, they're in for a rude awakening. You're talking, if an earner makes $80,000 a year and there's several people in the home that are working, that's $800 a year that's going to come out of their earned income.
Yeah, it seems like those taxes constantly ratchet up, but never ever seem to come down again. And that goes back to, in my book, Cheryl, what we have is an environment where the fear mongering worked. If whatever that was, 132 people, and I'm going to set aside for a moment the horrible low voter turnout in elections like this. Very few people actually turn out, and very few of them are actually properly informed to make good, well-educated decisions about what to vote for or against. And we have an environment where not enough people turned up with the right information, good information about what's actually happening on the balance sheet in Willoughby East Lake schools. They have a very large budget. And again, just for purposes of discussion, I want to kick these numbers around and see if it meets the smell test. We have a budget in Willoughby East Lake schools, or a part of the budget that's reported that shows just under $123 million a year. And that, as I said, boils down to over 18,500 per pupil.
Sir?
If that is not an environment where I suggest that the community should be willing to add an additional layer of tax. But they've been sold a bill of goods. They've been sold this idea that they're going to lose busing, that the kids won't be able to go to school, that the lunch program will disappear, whatever. I'm in many of these examples, I'm speaking in general terms because I'm aware of a lot of school districts that do this. In order to constantly pass the next new budget increase, they use fear tactics. And I'm quite certain that that's what happened. And that's what pushed this into action in Willoughby Eastlake.
Well,
Right, Cheryl?
here's the thing, Jonathan. All schools across the board, they use the same playbook, which is brought to you and I by the Ohio Education Association, and you name it. That's the first thing. Wycliffe did this. They took away busing within a certain radius, certain AP courses, and people are thinking this is all going to come back next year. No, it's not all going to come back next year in Wycliffe. When you have a donor who donates $92,000 for spring sports alone, just in Wycliffe schools, well, that was for this year's spring sports. That money is no longer there. So the schools threaten, yes, they do, and I agree with you, that they threaten busing, the AP courses, band, all these other issues, and to hurt the parents, not the children. Not the,
it hurts both, Cheryl.
You do not vote for these levies. You don't love your community. You do not love kids.
There it is.
You do not care, and you're a horrible person. No, this is wrong, and the tactics are wrong. And I'm telling, who is the school superintendent for Willoughby Eastlake to go after the Lake County commissioners to change their minds to not to do this?
Well, there's a lot of money at stake there. And Cheryl, we're coming up on a break. I would interject that, yes, absolutely. When you're talking about $8+ million difference, you're going to see fear tactics, shaming, confusion, misinformation. It's constant. It's a constant playbook. And that's how we've gotten to the point where we have school districts with $123 million a year.
Still on hold.
Yeah, I was just going to ask. We can.
Still on hold.
Yeah, I was just going to ask. We can pick up with Cheryl. What do you think, Skip?
Well, we've got a lot to talk about, and we don't want to make this whole show about schools. So
okay, she's left the phone line. She's left the phone line.
Oh, she dropped off. Anyway, okay. Yeah, no, I was kind of thinking the same thing. We've got a bunch of things that we wanted to.
we do need to mention our sponsors too, because we haven't talked about them. So.
Yep, good point. I'll come back with sponsors. Or do you want to? You want to? I'll turn it over.
Yeah,
to you.
flip it over to me, and I'll go on about sponsors. Plus, we want to talk about on the radio about supporting this program.
So there are two posts. I sent you the link to the one yesterday, and now those the links and QR codes are up. So there's option there for people to subscribe.
There is there is an option, and I'm exploring it right now, how to create a button that allows us to allow people to pick the monthly amount that they want to pay, subscription rate, donation rate. So they can pick it from $10 to $1,000 if they want. And so then that'll be an ongoing monthly deduction if people want to do that. But I'm exploring how that works.
What I've seen is typical is people, oddly enough, people don't generally change it. Whatever the suggested thing is, most people just follow that. And that's how it ended up at $8 a month. And you get enough of those, and you easily those snowball and cover pretty easily. Especially, I mean, $6.50 is really not that big a figure. I don't know how much the existing 5 cover, but whatever that difference is between what's covered now between existing sponsors, I imagine we should pretty easily hit if we can start getting a lot of people involved. All the people that like the show, who would be willing to sign up at a monthly subscription rate. Just make sure that we're covered.
Yeah, I mean, Substack rate though is based on a national number, so it's a huge number versus a local Geauga County number. So financially, you have to adjust your thinking a little bit on scale of from a donation standpoint. So, but we can talk about that offline. So we're not boring people on the Rumble channel and Facebook. And I know Stu is just dying because Stu's not a capitalist, probably. I'm guessing. Maybe he is. But Stu's probably more of a Marxist. And we probably ought to, and that's not intended to be an attack. What's that?
Maybe he thinks that it should just be government funded.
Well, and the problem I'm hearing today, and we need to have a program on this, and I'm reading this gentleman by the name of Brevelle. He's a French guy who's just done an outstanding job of portraying. I'm going to post this on our website for anybody to go read, of explaining Marxism and why it fails. And it's always failed. Historically, it's failed every time. Socialism and Marxism cannot succeed. And he gives all the explanations why. But that is what's being pushed by AOC and by Bernie, what's his last name? Bernie, whatever, the socialist. And Sanders, thank you. And so you've got all this whole group of people who want to beat up on the rich, where it's the rich that are
30 seconds.
Are the engine for our economy, and they're already being taxed enormously. And so they promote, and this is typical of Marxist societies, they promote this division to tear the society down. And if that's what's happening.
10 seconds.
Welcome back to Voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool and myself, Jonathan Broadbent, your hosts of Voice of Geauga. Rounding things out, we're wrapping up a little bit of unexpected conversation around school districts. Wycliffe came up, and Willoughby Eastlake, just to throw in there for good measure. Wycliffe most recently is reporting slightly over 50% proficiency. So those are the two things I keep encouraging people to look at. But moving on from the education conversation, I know we are chomping at the bit here to bring up our great sponsors of this show. Skip, who are our sponsors?
So we've got actually two sponsors, soon to be three actually. Red Eft, Arborist. And if Andrew, if you're listening out there, we will be playing your spot starting tomorrow. He created a spot for us to play versus you and I talking about him. And so that'll be started tomorrow, I'm understanding from our control room. But Red IFT is an arborist. Actually, I think we could do a much better job. Just do our personal experience with Red. But Andrew does a fantastic job, and he's busy right now. So you want to call him. You know, there's a lot of trees being trimmed and taken down and all that kind of stuff. He's out driving his truck around. I see him all over the place. If you want to reach out to him, 440-850-4968. He's not just a tree guy. He just doesn't come out, besides the fact that he's a really nice guy, but he's an arborist, so he's really educated and can help you to understand issues with trees, diseases, you know, whether a tree actually needs to come down or not come down, if there's any fixes for it. So Andrew is all about taking care of your plants and trees that are out there. In addition to that, we've got the VFW out of Chardon and Middlefield, and the American Legion out of Chardon and I guess Newberry. And so I'm always a big supporter of veterans. I'm a veteran myself, and these guys are meeting regularly and welcoming the public. Go buy a beer or meet some of your veterans over at the VFW in Chardon, and enjoy some conversations about their experiences. So good guys, and I encourage you to reach out to them and talk to them. And so with that said, one parting comment, then I'm going to get off of the schools thing a little bit and get onto this program. But the one caution that I would give people, there are schools that are trying to improve, West G being one, and they've got a great board. If we paint everybody with the same brush, then we don't give recognize when we're trying to do the right things in correct situations that might have been created by past boards and so forth. So, use some critical thinking as you're evaluating what schools are doing. Some schools are kind of irresponsible with the finances. That's just a reality. And so they need to be corrected. But that goes across government. That's not just schools. We need to be constantly watching government because government doesn't know how to manage your money. I've been in government. I've been township trustee. I've been a county commissioner. And when I was a commissioner, we worked really hard to stay within certain financial limits, to reduce cost and all that kind of stuff. Some governments could care less. It's easy money. They're spending money to make themselves look good. Go build something and then go cut a ribbon and tell everybody what a great job you did spending your money and with cost overruns and everything. People just don't pay attention to that. So you get a picture in the paper, you get your name on the outside of the building, and now you're a hero forever and ever in perpetuity because you wasted people's tax dollars. So that's the thing about government that drives me nuts. But onto this program, Jonathan, and I'll start the conversation. You can jump in. We're in a transition period right now on this radio station and in the newspaper. We've got great reach. We're hearing great things out in the community about this radio program and the newspaper. I was telling people on Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube when we were offline. I was over in Madison at a winery, and there were people at the winery in Madison, Ohio, talking about the voice of Geauga. And that's pretty phenomenal when you think about it. I don't know of any time I've walked into a restaurant or anything and people are talking about the Maple Leaf or the Chagrin Valley Times. And so.
And Skip, did you say they actually had a copy
They,
with them?
they actually had a copy,
rattle
yes.
it before
Yes.
the mic, this
And
beautiful looking paper.
I can't think of any time when I've walked into the bank. I walked into the Huntington Bank recently and seen the tellers reading it and saying, "Hey, we love your paper." So I know we're getting good reach. I know we're getting positive reaction. There are some people that don't like it, but they don't like. Sometimes they don't like it when you point out the flaws in the system, and so. But in order to continue, we need help. Right now, it's being done on a volunteer basis. Basically, we cover the cost, but going forward, we need more people involved. We lost the income associated with the campaigning season, all the campaign ads and stuff we put in. So we need to get more business ads in the paper in that transition. We need to find people who will want to write articles, community articles about what's going on in your community. We want to add
beautiful opportunities.
We want to add a classified section. So if you want to sell something, we can put classifieds in the paper. So we want to transition to a different kind of paper, and this radio station needs help and support too. It cost us to have this radio program on the radio. And the radio station, has its own cost, and so it's covering its cost and making a little bit of money in the process, which is capitalism, and that's fantastic. I support that. But we need people to help us with that. And so we're searching for sponsors right now. Red FT is a fantastic sponsor. The VFW has been great. We had an angel investor at one time who was donating money to us to keep us on the air. But if you would like to help to keep us on the air, we put a donate button on the website, voiceofgeauga.com. And you can reach out to us by emailing us at voiceofgeauga@gmail.com. Help us to find people who want to have their business promoted, because this is a two-sided coin. We're adding value to these businesses. Everybody that listens to this program will hear about Red AFT and how great they are, and hopefully do business with them. So there's value in them investing their money in us to help to promote them. And so do business with Red AFT. If you need to get a tree taken down, go to Red AFT. We're soon to have a painting company come online, hopefully. And we want you to do business with them because they're good guys and do a good job, and they're investing in us. So help them to succeed. And so it's kind of a two-sided coin. We all work together to help each other succeed. And that's what free enterprise is all about. So anyway, I throw that out there. If you're interested in helping us to keep the Voice of Geauga going and have good content in both the radio and the paper, we need to hear from you. And so that's my 2 cents worth.
There's a great expression out there. And that expression is "a rising tide raises all boats." It's felt for a while like there's a sinking feeling, for me at least, and many of the people that I talk to about just the overspending, the rubber stamping, and as you described earlier, Skip, the people in local government, well, in government in general, Columbus, Geauga County, and DC, who are perfectly happy spending endless sums of our taxpayer dollars in order to gain a photo opportunity. And they get out in front of a ribbon, cut some ribbon in front of some new $800 million brand new lavish building, some Taj Mahal somewhere. And they present that in the media typically as some great new thing. Look at how great I am because you elected me and now I'm ribbon cutting in front of this building. Well, we need as a people, as a society, as a community, we need to focus on reining that in. And that atmosphere has led to this feeling that it's like a sinking feeling. As taxes continue to skyrocket, more and more people struggle financially. And then we have this balcony class. That's what they're called, balcony class. These people that get themselves into politics and they start making just outrageous sums of money. You see it. I mean, the prime examples we focus on often are the politicians we put into office in DC, and many of them in Columbus. They get into office as ordinary average citizens, and a few years later, we learn that they're worth $10 million or $800 million or $2 billion, whatever. These people are ridiculous. They're abusing us and siphoning money out of society, out of economy, out of communities in order to self-enrich. Well, the opposite is a rising tide, raising all boats. So when Skip is describing the things that we are doing here at Voice of Geauga and spotlighting local businesses and encouraging people to communicate and collaborate together to build free enterprise, to build and promote local business and local economies, we can help each other and we become more informed and a better community for it. That's the mission of Voice of Geauga, and it's a brilliant, vibrant mission. We would encourage you to check out the website. Skip's got a link up there, voiceofgeauga.com. Also, this morning, actually yesterday and today, are two different posts on Facebook. We have a big following that's growing on Facebook. Remember, that's your reminder. Go right now to Rumble, Facebook, or YouTube, or all three of them. Don't forget to click that like button, click the bell to get notified when programs like this one go live. But check out those two posts, one yesterday, one today. They provide opportunity for you to get involved and help support shows like this one. Going forward, you, my fellow Geauga friends in Northeast Ohio or wherever you are, you're greatly appreciated. We'd love to see this go on into the future for years to come, to continue to be the voice of Geauga citizens. And I would be remiss if I didn't include the phone number. You can also call in and join the conversation, 440-946-9468. And while you're there on social media, Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube, you can join the conversation. There's a lively, vibrant conversation I see taking place on Rumble right now about all kinds of things. There are links that are being shared. It's all designed to be helpful. We're going to come back with more of this conversation on the other side of the break.
Mics are off. Mics are off.
So I want to kick around that idea of a telethon. I mean, if we've got a number of people who are pretty high profile that I think are keenly interested in making sure that Voice of Geauga is well taken care of, that goes comfortably into the future and is there and available, pardon me, for the foreseeable future. I think that they would contribute a little chunk of their time to come on the show and do a telethon. We could set up a couple of hours, maybe Skip on a podcast one day, have the link and QR code, all that stuff plainly visible, and encourage people to hop in, even small sums. It all adds up. if you're talking about however many dollars per month, you take a look at people's very common willingness to sign up for streaming channels on Rumble and Roku or those kinds of things. I think, I believe that we have a vibrant enough audience that cares enough that we're going to find people that will sign up for that. That gives us that, it covers that monthly expense and continues the
30 seconds, 30 seconds.
continues the radio show, the podcast, and the newspaper indefinitely.
Well, I'm not going to live indefinitely, so we need to have some more bodies involved too. So
Yes,
I'm just
that
being
too.
honest. So I'm an old
No,
guy.
yeah.
So I'm
Yeah,
going to.
and the pace of this Monday through Friday, this early hour, it's a
10
lot.
seconds, 10 seconds.
Welcome back to Voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool and myself, Jonathan Broadbent. I brought up an idea during the commercial break there. We were talking on the podcast side. My idea is putting together a telethon. Do a special dedicated show, and I feel positive that there are enough pretty high profile people out there that care enough about Voice of Geauga and making sure that it carries forward in perpetuity, that we have years to come of the Voice of Geauga and the importance of getting good, viable, accurate information, of asking the hard questions, that I think that we would get a really good roster of great guests together, and maybe I can rally Skip to commit to some big chunk of time, to a couple of hours on a podcast, and get a series of great guests and just talk about the importance and encourage people to contribute. And the example that I gave, and it's very common now, you get a lot of subscription types of services. There's subscription apps that you can get on your phone. There's streaming video services like Hulu and whatever, Amazon Prime and all those, Netflix, etc. So people very comfortably commit to some monthly sum. And if we get enough people encouraged by what we're doing here at Voice of Geauga, between those elements, the podcast, the radio show, and the newspaper, I think that we could very comfortably make sure that this show it remains viable and is comfortable and funded into the future for episodes like this one. What are your thoughts, Skip?
So let me throw something out there to the public. This is a business at the end of the day. And we started with an idea. We said, we think that a newspaper that goes to every home in Geauga County would be of value, of interest to the people in Geauga County. We've been talking about that actually for years, but finally we decided this year to try it. Now, we did it on a shoestring. I volunteer my time for both the radio and so does Jonathan for the radio and for the newspaper. But at the end of the day, the intent was to create a business. So there's actually a company set up, registered in the state of Ohio, under Voice of Geauga, and it could be a viable business. The problem is, or the challenge that we have is now going from this idea, this concept that we've now kind of proven that there is an interest. People like it. They want something different from what they're seeing in the existing papers. That's a value, and people pay for value. And so we just need to transition this now to the next level and into a true business. But to do that, we're going to need some more people involved, because there is a certain amount of time required to do preparation, to set up technology, to write the articles, to do the production, do all that kind of stuff. And there's not enough time in the day for somebody like myself or Jonathan, just two people doing this, to do all the things we can do. There's a lot of opportunity for Voice of Geauga to expand and have a weekly newsletter versus a monthly newspaper. And we could expand. Many businesses like the Maple Leaf make a huge amount of money on social media, advertising on social media, and having subscriptions for their newspaper and so forth. We've not gone there yet because of a time issue and kind of experimenting with what we want to become. But if anybody wants to be a part of the company, I'd love to talk to you. Um, at the end of the day, it's going to require people who, we'll have to bring some people on board. I've actually engaged somebody to do advertising because this is of real value to businesses. We need to bring businesses in that see the value. We have the fireworks company, Phantom Fireworks, who understands the value, and some other companies are planning on coming on board for that reason. But we need to promote that, expand that, and then expand some of the other revenue opportunities. But that's a business, and it requires business-minded people to make all that happen. So I'd like to talk to people who might want to be a part of a growing business, and help us then to become, for Voice of Geauga, become something more than it is, which is kind of like a hobby business, if you will. But we could become a real business with the right people involved. And so I just need to talk to some people who have an interest and have the background skills to do that. And so you can reach out through voiceofgeauga@gmail.com if you have an interest. But
the labor of love.
yeah, it is. And so and to be quite honest with you, I'm an old guy, and so I'm who knows how long I'm going to be around. And so it'd be nice to get some younger people in here that have more longevity that could benefit on a longer term basis from a business that is bringing some value to Geauga County. And so anyway, that's my speech for the moment. But
beautiful. You're spot on. And you bring up a good point. On the social media side, I have been blessed with some people who are both younger than I and also very tech savvy, who put together a great program for our show, Ohio Political News. And I've Kent to thank mostly on that. Our guy Kent on Ohio Political News is very tech savvy. He's constantly out there building the social media profile. I think we're now at around 23,000 followers on Facebook, etc. And that program is now a viable social media program. I would be among. I encourage our listening audience to picture everybody that you know, and on that list of everybody you know, put me near the bottom of the list of social media skills. I never actually really wanted to be on social media. I'm kind of the opposite of an influencer. I didn't ever want any of that, actually. I just sort of willingly take a role. But people like Kent, if we find somebody like that to help and take the reins at Voice of Geauga, we can duplicate that. We can replicate that and build Voice of Geauga in a comparable way. And I know that there's money that comes in, for instance, and it was in one of the comments in Rumble, somebody was talking about Lake County Commissioner John Plechnik. Well, on Ohio Political News, Commissioner Plechnik is a periodic guest, and it was a recent snippet, actually, from one of those repeal, abolish property tax panel discussions. There was a little video clip of maybe, I don't know, 45 seconds long with Commissioner Plechnik that got over 1 million views for Ohio Political News. I don't know what that brings in. I'd have to ask one of my co-hosts on the managing the financial side of the equation there. But that brings in revenue when 1 million or more people watch a little video clip. We could be doing the same sorts of things and add all that up, and we have an opportunity for a significant and viable business. So far, Skip's right. We've got a couple of people here who are, it's a handful of us who are dedicated enough to keeping Geauga that we do this out of a labor of love. The business vision is there and it's right within reach. It is a tremendous opportunity. And I'm going to flip the equation. Just imagine what we would be missing if we didn't have Voice of Geauga. We'd go back to I keep talking about those the images of Biden eating ice cream cones. It's the ice cream cone equation. Those puff piece media coverage of the ribbon cuttings and who looks best eating pancakes and how much maple syrup they use. instead of good, actionable information about what's happening out in the community. That's what Voice of Geauga is here for. So we're kicking around a number of different things, and just know that it is the intention of Skip, myself, and many other people who have rallied behind this mission of Voice of Geauga to make this thing, make sure it has legs and continues well into the future for the next generation. We're coming up on the conclusion of the show. Skip, do we have guests lined up this week? States?
Not yet, but I've got a couple of thoughts, one of which is to do a man on the street, go into a local restaurant and hear from our citizens directly.
We're going to be working on that. We have a lot of great things that are coming up that we're building for Voice of Geauga. Have a great week, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow morning.